live. Okay, good afternoon or good morning or good evening or good night, everyone. This is Dimitri here from the Blue Mountains in Australia for The Accomplished Man, and we are starting day 3 of our 3-day challenge. We're completing our 3-day challenge today. This is an integrity challenge, and this challenge is not about spending 3 days without pornography, because this doesn't tell us anything about ourselves. But rather, this is a challenge in integrity because we are looking within ourselves to understand what is our ties to pornography. And once we understand our relationship with pornography, why we crave it, why it's relevant to us in a way that we are compelled and we feel a compulsion to consume pornography, then we can understand how to get out of it. And this is what we're doing in the frame of this 3-day challenge. We are coming to the understanding that by witnessing our relationship with pornography, we can change it and modify it as we go, and that this addiction is actually flexible, that it can be moved and shaped in different ways until we can break it and be free from pornography. And this only takes to show up, to be there, and to look within with courage into an investigation of the self and why we have this sexual behavior or why we have this habit of pornography. And so for this day 3, the theme is what is the way of healing? How come we cannot recover from our pornography addiction? On the first day, we were exploring what's the damage of pornography in our lives. On the second day, we said, what is our life without pornography, this ideal vision of our life? And today we're exploring how come we can't get to that vision? What's on the way from our addiction into this free life? What's in the middle that is blocking us? And there's a really good segue. Yesterday, Per left a comment. By all means, guys, if you're watching this, I see a few of you are watching this, give us a thumb up, give us a hi, give us a love heart or a hello or comments, and I'll reply to the best of my ability in the live. So yesterday, Per said, for me, it helps to go internal and ask myself what I need to try to accomplish by using porn. Then create another way than porn and orgasm to fulfill that need. And I like the idea that there's a need that is not fulfilled, and Per is looking for other ways to fulfill that need. And it is a good strategy, and if you can find a need, it's great. It is not easy. So if your addiction is mild, you can go cold turkey, decide to stop watching pornography, and you'll be free. Good for you. If your addiction is more intense than that, going cold turkey is not going to work because the unconscious part of your mind that decided is going to watch pornography is stronger than your conscious sheer strength of will. And so you'll never win that fight against your unconscious mind. So you might as well accept that and not feel guilty. And our Per is telling us, well, there is a need in us that is not fulfilled, and I'm trying to find other ways to fulfill that. And that's great. If you can find other ways to fulfill that need that's within you, that pornography is fulfilling with other things, then it's a good way to freedom. But often it is not easy to understand what the need is. And so this is what I'm getting into right now. This is a long intro into what we're doing today. What's in the way of healing? And first of all, there's something I would like to clarify: the difference between motivation and priority. On day 1 of this challenge, I asked you, what is your motivation for quitting pornography from 1 to 10, where 1 is low and 10 is high? But another way where I ask this question is, what's your priority for healing in your life at the moment? From 1 to 10, how big a priority is healing from pornography addiction for you? And what I came to observe when I asked this question is that some people give me a low number. They say my motivation is a 4, but actually their priority is a 10. But the reason why they're not having a 10 for motivation is because they believe they cannot heal. And so priority kind of doesn't really take into account the difficulty. It's like how important it is right now. But people feel like they're not motivated because it feels too hard. And so there is this gap between the priority and the motivation. And so I'm here to tell you that it is hard to heal from this addiction when you don't have a solid process, when you don't know the need that you're trying to fulfill, when you don't know yourself well enough, then it is hard. But if you have a simple process that is tested, efficient, and it works, then it's possible and it's not hard. And so I'm hoping that this can blast the belief that it is hard to heal from this addiction. And even if it is not necessarily easy, this shouldn't affect your motivation. If this is a high priority in your life, then it is time to address it, no matter how hard it is. And you may feel discouraged because you failed in the past and you relapsed, And that's okay. You got to try something new. If you've relapsed too many times, you got to try a different method, different process, different technique. Otherwise, you'll get always the same result and you'll get the same demotivation. So I want to ask you the question. The question I asked yesterday was, why are we watching pornography? Why are we attracted to the content we consume? What's in pornography that is appealing to us? Most of the times we will get into niche kind of content. Like there's some kind of content that will really do it for us in pornography, and we'll tend to target that. And so why do we watch the stuff that we watch in pornography? That is the question I was asking yesterday. And before I address that, I just want to invite you to consider what is blocking you from quitting pornography right now. Why, if you've had this intention in the past, why has this not become manifested yet and you haven't healed from that addiction? And so I'm projecting myself back into my days as well of addiction. What was it for me? And we can do this together. And you can let us know in the chat as well, in the comments. For me, it was the absence of information. I had no idea that there were ways out. It was the fact that I wanted to work this out on my own. I'm like, no, I'm smart. I want to figure this out on my own, which is such a terrible belief to be had. This is ego-based belief of like, no, I want to do everything myself. I'm independent. But when it's such a crucial matter such as pornography addiction, it doesn't matter if you're getting help or not, because man, you got to get out of this on your own or not. But if you need to have a process coming from someone else, then so be it. There's no need to like cling onto this idea of I'm going to heal myself on my own. What else was it for me? Loneliness. There was no one to whom I could talk to. There was no Facebook group. There was none of that. So I did not know. What else? Pleasure. I guess it was just the thing of like, if I let go of pornography, what is it going to be in my life that I'm going to do instead? There was this attachment to pornography, like I can let go, but what am I going to do then? Where am I going to find pleasure and comforting? And I'd say that that's about it for me. And that's prevented me from healing for 17 years. So I want to ask you, what is it for you? What's in the way of your healing from pornography addiction? What's in the way? Why hasn't it happened yet? What is blocking you? Generally, and I'm not asking for excuses, or I am asking for excuses. What's been on the way that made that it hasn't happened? And it's fine. We're not judgmental. We're just observing what happens. The first key to healing is observing what happens without judgment, to have the information on which we can work. And now that I've shared that, I want to ask you, why do we watch the content that we watch? And let me see, is this live on my laptop as well? It is not. Awesome. Why do we watch the content that we watch? So, and I like to start from the very, very obvious. We often hear that pornography comes from a place of void. There is a void in us that we're trying to fill with pornography. And I never really understood that, or I guess for me it was coming from a place of void in time, like we're feeling time with the thing. But now that I've healed, I understand that it was actually a void in my heart. It was a void in my body that I was really needing this attraction. Danny, thank you for sharing. What blocks me from quitting is routine. Okay, guys, so there's 3 stages to healing. The first one is to remove the compulsion, which is what I'm going to talk about right now. After that, we have the temptation, when the compulsion is not that strong anymore, but we're still kind of craving, kind of clinging, but we know we can do without. And the last stage is routine or habit. And when you're at the stage of habit, guys, you've nearly done all the work. Like, a habit is easy to break. You just need to divert the habit into something else. You got to catch your pattern and see how this habit is coming into your day, and then somehow break this habit. So you can write it down, use a piece of paper and sheet of paper. Thank you, Manish, for your encouragements. And write how your day is made during the day and how you come to this habit, And if you go to work, then you go playing squash, and after squash you're tired, and then you go on your laptop and watch pornography, then maybe I feel like, hey, if you go play squash in the morning, then you'll be tired the whole day, but then when you come back home, you'll be cooking, and so you won't need to watch pornography. Or it'll be not so natural to have the laptop and automatically go to it. So breaking the habit is not hard. Guys, I'm happy to help you break the habit. We can make a whole week, another challenge dedicating to breaking the habit. That's a great idea. And it's not hard. Once you've gotten rid of the compulsion, the thing inside you, the psychological ties to pornography, breaking the habit is not hard. By routine, I mean the routine of my life, Danny. Okay, well, you got to change your life. That's the short answer. So if it's a routine of life, maybe there's a psychological ties that bind you to pornography. I understand what you say. It's just like this cycle of being mindless in life, and there's these patterns that repeat over and over again, led by unconscious patterns in our mind that repeat themselves over and over. So let's go back to this. Why do we watch the stuff that we watch in pornography, right? I feel like when people talk about pornography, they talk about the habit, they talk about the container, they talk about the impact in their life, but they don't talk about the psychological stuff. And that's what's the key. We talk about the object of pornography, but we don't talk about the content of pornography. And that is key, because if we are attracted towards pornography, there's something in our mind that is attracted to it. And if we can diffuse that thing in our mind, then we can be free from pornography. So pornography comes from a place of void inside us. And this void is that we can't really find ourselves. We are limited by patterns, by unconscious routines that is blocking us in our lives. And we don't really know what. We know we're not 100% at our potential, but we don't really know why. And we don't really know exactly what. And it would be so nice if we knew what we're doing wrong that doesn't allow us to live 100%. And so we don't understand ourselves. And this part of us that we don't understand, that has these patterns that are dysfunctional, that we don't understand, I will call the shadow, okay? And the shadow is the part of us that is repressed, this unconscious thing where we've repressed all the bad things that have happened to us, but instead of disappeared, these things have just been suppressed or repressed, but they're still in us, and they're still leading the way we live together. It can be trauma, it can be attachment issues, it can be any dysfunction that we've accumulated along the years that's driving us, because the unconscious mind is the decision maker. When you repress something, then the thing you want to avoid is actually now making decisions for you. So that's not a good choice, but it's an unconscious choice and we can't control it. And so I also call that the core wound. The shadow is the part of us that holds all the repression and the thing that we've undergone, the trauma, the attachment issue, the core reason why we're not 100% at our full potential, I call the core wound. Okay. And so we carry a core wound, and it is that core wound that drives us towards pornography, or that drives us towards addiction. And pornography is the medium. I always say addiction is the disease, pornography is the medium, the core wound is the root cause, the core wound is the source. So if we understand the core wound, then we can reprocess this core wound, we can reprocess this trauma adequately, and we can free ourselves from pornography and remove the ties that we have from the addiction. Now, how do we do that if we don't know our core wound? Well, this is when you're really lucky. If I'm addicted to smoking, I don't know why I'm addicted to smoking. I understand there's something about the taste, there's something about, maybe the action of sucking that had some meaning for me, but it's really hard for me to extract meaning out of that. In pornography, as we said yesterday, pornography is the theater of archetypes, is the universal replay where humanity's shadow is projecting all these scenarios and fantasies, and there is so much choice and colors and tastes into pornography that you can choose like the exact pornography that does it for you. And so this is the real luck for us porn addicts, or yes, I'm not porn addict anymore, but for those of us who are working on this, it's that pornography allows us to understand the core wound. Now this is key, okay? If I were to describe my hack and my work in one sentence, it is that sentence. It's that the pornography we consume is a sexualized replay of the core wound we've gone through. The pornography we consume is a sexualized replay of the core wound we carry. And so through the pornography we watch, we're actually reenacting this core wound that we're carrying. If there's been an injustice, we're watching pornography that contains an injustice. If we've been victim of violence, we're consuming pornography that deals with violence. If we have the feeling of non-existing, then we're watching pornography that reinforces that feeling of not existing. Or the exact opposite, we're watching pornography where there is a revenge and someone is over-existing over other people. And so this is what drives us inside us, the core wound. That's the ultimate chain, is that through the core wound, we enact a behavior, and that behavior pushes us into pornography, and that pornography feeds the shadow, it feeds the core wound. And the core wound feeds alleviated, the shadow feeds alleviated, it feels healed, it feels soothed, but instead of being healed, The shadow is reinforcing the pattern. Instead of healing the pattern and reprocessing it adequately, the shadow is just engraving that wound more and more through orgasm, through pornography, through super stimuli, through all these impactful processes that are involved in pornography. And so in this pornography scene that we consume, there is a transfer of power from one archetype to another. And in this transfer of power, that's when the shadow feels empowered. Pornography will always make your shadow win. Pornography will always make your shadow win. And that's why we crave it so much, because when we create this me time, this little ritual at home, and we're watching pornography, like, oh, finally I can be myself, and just falling into for whatever I have in my heart, that's because there's the shadow taking over. The shadow's been repressed during the day in the social frame, and now it can finally exist. And in that pornographic scene that we consume, the shadow will win. The shadow will be given justice. The shadow will be given revenge. So if you're, the pizza delivery scenario where there's a pizza guy who's coming for delivering pizza, and then there's a super sexy girl who's wants to have sex with him, then maybe if you're someone who have a low self-esteem, you'll identify with the guy who's got the pizza delivery, and you dream of these girls, but you'll never, they're way out of your league, you'll never be able to score with them. And yet in that scene, bang, you got a interaction that's happening, sexual interaction with these women. So your shadow wins in that case. Your low self-esteem is being soothed by that scenario, but it's not real healing. It's just ingraining this more and more in your mind that you have a low self-esteem. Long story short. Okay. So this is the root cause of the addiction to pornography, or any addiction. But it is so visible in pornography that when you know how to read that, you can heal yourself. So I want to invite you to analyze yourself. This is how I healed myself, and how I came up with that technique. I analyzed myself, and I took notes in the videos I was watching and the content I was consuming of what are the archetypes, what are the stereotypes, what is the story, who's winning, who's losing, who's being taken advantage over whom. And that's how I heal myself. That's helped me then to point to the core wound, to, oh, I understand what's happening in that scenario. And what was it for me? The scenario was, I take a lesbian scene, it was all lesbian for me. It was the absence of men in particular, and yet there was a lot of violence and extreme pornography in those scenes. And it was like an ambivalence in the masculinity, being bullied at school, and that I was seeing the masculine as an offense. And yet there was this desire of revenge for me. And so I was expressing this desire of revenge from a woman onto another woman. There you go. Long story short, that was pretty much my story. And we all carry some kind of hurt in this way. So I invite you to look into yourself and analyze the content you watch and identify your core wound. And take as many notes as you can about your core wound, because this will change your life. Once you heal your core wound, it's a whole different life, where you own your life 100%, you understand why you react a certain way, you don't get triggered so easily. It's just the beginning of life, really, when you own that core wound and you heal that core wound. So if everything I have said so far makes sense to you, if you feel like you need a nudge, if you feel like you're ready to work on yourself, and you want to do this, and you want to heal, and you're ready, then please book a discovery call with me. It's a very quick 15-minute call where we can discuss your situation and your aspirations, and I ask you a lot of questions about where you're at and what are your goals, and more about your personal history as well. And from there, we can see how we can work together, and if this is working for you, and how you can heal. All right, so there's only so many people I can work with every month. So please, if you feel motivated, it's my absolute pleasure. And this is my mission, guys. This is my life purpose, is to share my message of healing. If you feel like you want to heal, if you feel like this makes sense, please book a discovery call with me, and it'd be my pleasure to help you out. Okay, I welcome you into your healing. I thank you for having participated to this challenge, and I wish you a fantastic day. Aho.